Picked the wrong week and quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning, everybody. How you been? It's been a while. This is week 11. Week 11 on the Enterprise D build. Back from the UK, and I'm doing that thing I always do, which is walking around in a funk because, you know, it's post big deal depression. I get it. I get it all the time. I get it all through the all the time that I was working after we finished a major project. Or I would, you know, some big thing happens, and after that, it takes a while to come back and get back into your groove. So I've been wandering around in a bit of a post trip funk. No slight to people who actually have clinical depression. I don't mean to make light of that, but that's what I call it. So we're getting back to the Enterprise D this week. Looking forward to it. Had a great time in the UK, chewing over details with Phil about the build and how it was going. I've got some beautiful decals to show you that I picked up from Keith. These are the files that I sent him that I drew based on artwork that was given to me by Rick Sternbach. So it's kind of Sternbach to me, to Keith, back to you. So you can see how they turned out. But, you know, I was getting my stuff together, as one does, and getting ready to work on the D, and came up with something wrong, came up with a missing part, and I hate it, and I tore the house apart, couldn't find it. And it's all in the moving things from the living room to the studio and back and forth. I tried to keep track of everything. I didn't. I did a flurry of cleaning before I left, and it might have gone out with that, but at this point, who really cares? So I was beating myself up all weekend about being so stupid as to lose a part, and that's not good. So I did what any sensible person would do in that position, and I got on the email to the master of all things 3D, Jeff Fink, and I said, Fink, man, you got to help me out. You're my Obi-Wan. You have got to. You're my only hope on this. This is the part, and luckily I have one. It is the housing for the impulse engine on the main saucer, or the only saucer. It is the main impulse engine. I had one, could lay my hand to one, couldn't lay my hand on the other one. And I remember doing both of them. If you watched the video, you probably saw me, but I could not find the other one. So I said, Jeff, I've got this one. I'll take all the measurements you want. Can you 3D design me a replacement part? Because I know going to Helios is a non-starter. So let me show you the results of that, and then I will show you the beautiful decals from Keith, and then we'll get back on the horse and get back on working on the D. So come with me to the table if you dare. Okay, here we've got a tale of 4 impulse engines covers. Here is the original. Here's the one of the originals. Now, you know, after we've gone through all this work, that federal law will demand that the part will reappear. As soon as I have scrapped this and put the replacements on the ship, by law, the original ones must reappear. But here's where we're going to start, and I'm not going to go through the whole story here. I'm just going to show you that this was first generation. This is what Jeff came up with first. Beautiful, lovely, not quite right. I wanted the opening here to be wider, so this angle here needed to be not as drastic. So went back to the drawing board with Jeff, and we came up with these ones. Now these are, and the reason you see 2 of them is I'm obviously going to be replacing both. I would never get, you know, there would be a mismatch because they're not going to be the same. They're very close, but they're not going to be the same. So I'm just going to replace both of them. This one's just a mirror of the other one. So let me zoom back out. back out. There we go. So this was generation 2. Closer, but still no cigar. Now 3, we went to the 3rd issue, and this was me. I took his number 2 version. And I just went into it with Cheeto Box and basically just played with the scale of it, made it a little bit taller, a little bit skinnier, that type of thing. And then we went with and that was even closer. And then we went into a 4th version. Now these only took about an hour each to print, so it's not like we spent all weekend on this. But this was the 4th version, and I think there's a point in any endeavor where you go and you correct and then you go too far the other way. These, I think, are a little bit too far the other way, and I don't want to. I have put enough imposition on Jeff that I didn't want to ask him to go any further. So I decided. I looked at them all today. I looked at 1. I looked at 2. I looked at 3, and I looked at 4, and I said, well, which one of these? If I had to make a snap judgment, which one of these would I use? And it came back to the number 3. So the number 3 are the ones I'm going to be using. I think they are the closest. They're still not quite it. It has to do with the shape of the inside of it. And I'm also losing the, because I've lost the other one, there is a gridded line in here inside the clear piece. So I'm going to be using just a piece of that frosting material that I used inside the saucer a couple weeks ago. That's what I'm going to be using, and that's what this is. This is the diffusion material. But I think this is the best compromise, so I need to get these painted up, and I've got extra copies of this file now, so if I lose them again, I can print new ones. But of course the lesson in all that is not to lose them again. So I'm going to be, extra careful about my parts, so that we don't go through this again. So we have to back up and repaint. But these are the lessons that you learn. So let me clean this off the table, and then get ready. I want to show you something very lovely. Okay, these are the decals that I picked up from Keith that he had printed for us. Now I saw Keith's setup in the fabulous galactic headquarters of Cosmic Scale Models. That's a lovely printer he's got. But I want you to look at how lovely and crisp and clean and beautiful these are. These are just some lovely details, and they are all backed in white as they should be. And this is a fraction of one of the sheets of lifeboats. I've cut these apart. The reason you see them cut is I'm trying them out on because I couldn't help myself. I had to lay them on the ship to see how they looked. I did both a blue and a black version of the lettering for the main registry because, black, in my heart they're black, but in my eyes I know they're blue. So we're going to use the blue ones. But here are the redrawn transporter emitters, stripage. Again, you can see some white printing there. And then we've got 2 sheets. We've got 2 sheets of lifeboats because it's going to take that many sheets of lifeboats to cover all the spots that need them. And hopefully we're going to start on that this week. And then, of course, we've got the main registry here that we will be putting on the front of the ship. So I am going to be very carefully putting the paper between these again. I don't want to scratch them before I have a chance to put them on the ship. But this is the nacelle pennant, and all of the loveliness that goes with it. Here's the other pennant. And I've also did a version where the line art here is blue, but it's so nice to see that white printing. But that's what's on the menu for this week. If I can get to where I hope to, we will be putting the decals on the secondary hull this week. Won't be starting that today. So Today I want to finish the wiring in the saucer. So now that I've shown you all of these goodies, I need to separate the saucer from the rest of the ship. And I need to turn these over so we don't scratch anything. And proceed with week 11 on the Enterprise D build. Well, it's Monday morning. Almost 11 o'clock. Guess what I found? I found the other impulse housing. Sorry, Jeff. Put you through all of that. Found the other one. I'll be using the original parts again. It was, in case you want to know, underneath the ship. No way, you say. Well, I would agree with you. I picked up the ship to bring it up on the table, and then I looked over where it was sitting on the floor. This was underneath it. I'm going to go outside and scream for a while. I'll be back later. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go out and scream because I looked everywhere. It was right underneath the stand. And now I wouldn't have thought that the stand, that you could fit it under the stand. And I wondered, you know, it looked like it was a little bit crooked on the floor. It was sitting on the stand. Or the stand was sitting on the part. I got to go apologize to Jeff and see what I can do to make it up to him. And like I said, I'm going to go scream. Okay, I'm back. I'm done kicking myself. I'm standing up now because sitting right now is difficult. Cannot believe I was that stupid. But that's why it says dummy on the label. If you want smart, intelligent model building, you have come to the wrong place. What I'm doing here is I'm finishing up the wiring. I've got the lighting in. You've seen that. What I'm working on now is what I call the effect wiring. That is the red and green navs and the 3 white position LEDs. There's one up front. If I can find the front. Yes, there's one up front, and then there's 2 back at the neck. Those need to be joined together, and then everything here needs to get one of these beauties put on there so that I can plug it into the wiring harness that I have coming up the neck. There will be, if you remember correctly, I brought every wire that I had up the neck and I put 2 of these on the end of it on the same color. Now I'm going to color match the plug end of this now. So for example, the common positive that runs everything, when it comes up the neck, it ends in a white female junction. It ends in one of these that is white. And I've got 2 of those, one for the top of the saucer, one for the bottom of the saucer. Here is the positive side of that, and that is for this of course is the bottom of the saucer. So what I need to do is go around and look at the various circuits that I have. Now I have windows, I have position markers, red and green, and then I have the white position markers, and there's 3 of those, and then I have the 3 wires that constitute the phaser strip. Those all need to get plugs on the end of them so that I can plug them into the neck as it comes up. And then I have to do the same thing on the top of the saucer. Now the top has a lot fewer connections to make because most of my lighting is handled on this side. So let's do the top, get all these plugs put on, and then we'll do the same on the top. Alrighty, substantial work done today, kids. I've got all of the saucer wired now. It is got plugs on the back of it. All of these are going to plugs that I can plug into the wires coming up the neck. So the next step really is to put it all together and test fire it and see if everything is working as it should. Okay, I'm shooting this in the dark for the drama. For the first time, we've got the bridge lit up. We've got the windows. We've got the top on. We've got the green marker lights. This is a whole lot more noticeable on camera than it is in real life. We've got impulse engines. Luckily, I've got my housing for the top of those. We've got the nacelles. We've got the strobe at the top of the bridge blinking. We've got a phaser. We've got a, well, if I can hit the button, we've got a bottom phaser. We've got let's see, photon torpedo. We've got a torpedo at the stern. I couldn't get the camera back fast enough. We've got warp effect. I just don't have the speakers hooked up, but you can see what's going on. Got some light leakage here that I'm not happy about. A little bit too late to do anything about that now. Yeah, it's all coming together now. We've got our bow light in, and underneath as well we've got our bow light. We've got our underneath windows. We've got the deflector area in, but we don't have the dish installed. And I can go ahead and shut that off. And off. And everything dies out. There. Well, good morning, folks. It's Tuesday. Hopefully I'm in much better spirits today. What I wanted to do is I brought the speakers in and hooked them up because I want to give you one last run of this before I take the saucer off, because the next thing to do is to take the saucer off and then do what I am considering the fine-tooth comb pass, the last looks pass on the Stardrive. My goal for this week is to get the Stardrive done, and I mean done to the point that it has everything touched up. It has decals on it. It has the final coat and everything leading up to this bit of nonsense here, which is going to be the last major stuff. Now, there is a lot of industry going on here. There's a lot of, let me tighten that down. There's a lot of decals that go on in here. I will not be putting those down until that joint is fixed, because there's going to be puttying, sanding, repainting, all of that kind of stuff is going to happen there. Not so much on the underside. The seam on the underside is very clean, so I can go ahead and put the decals on the underside of the neck. I don't feel like I'm going to be, I may live to regret those words, but I don't feel we're going to have a problem with that as much as the top side. So I want to get everything. I want to get everything on the Stardrive done this week. Whew, we're almost down to the wire. So let's do the startup sequence. And for that, I'm going to have to get the camera kind of back and away here so that we can see what's going on. I will maybe even kill the overhead light here. Yeah, let's kill the overhead light and hit the old Picard button. And here she comes.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Now we're going to kill the rest of the theme here, but I've got everything lit. But now the fun starts. Let's see if I can get far enough. The trick is to get far enough away, hit the button, and we'll try that again. And one last time for good measure. That is the top phaser. Now we're going to go underneath and do the bottom phaser strip. Get the camera set up here, and oops, that was the photon torpedo. That was the rear torpedo. Let's do the bow torpedo. Hopefully you saw the red dot. Okay, now we can do the underside phaser. Oh yeah, there's one right up front. Okay, now we'll do the going to warp. Again, not all that noticeable. We'll try that one again. Okay, less spectacular. But all of the windows are lit, all of my formation lights are on. Red over there, we've got the ones at the neck. We've got blue light, the deflector dish goes on this week. We've got all of our lighting at the top of the saucer. We've got the strobe here. Subtle strobe, which is important. We've got the impulse engine and the two. Now this will get pulled down. That'll get pulled down like that, so that'll be less of a light leak there. We've got our top and bottom neck lights, and we've got our tail lights there. We've got our strobes going top and bottom on both nacelles. There's this one, and there's that one. We're in a good spot now to where we can take the saucer off. Oops. Let's give you one shot going into the shuttle bay so you can see what's going on in there. Yeah, everything's looking good to this point. And now we can disassemble it and, like I said, do the fine-tooth comb pass on the Stardrive. Well, pardon the noise, but part of getting back to normal also means getting back on the horse and processing another order. I am starting work on the final pass work on the Stardrive, and something that's always kind of bugged me about these Bizarre collectors is that they need to be a little bit dirtier back here around the edge. I'm not going to paint these in overall color because I think you know, you get one shot at doing that, and if you don't do it right, it's going to blow up in your face. So what I want to do though is take a light smoke pass. This is Tamiya clear smoke, and I'm just going to darken just the back area here. I can show you a reference of what I'm going for. Okay, hopefully you can see it here. I'm going to chalk up this clearness to the color of the gel that's inside, but it's this area here that I'm interested in. Now I've got the cowling masked off, but it's just a tiny bit up here, but darker down around this edge, and that's what I'm endeavoring for, and I think I got like one pass at it. So wish me luck. Okay, I've got one pass on here. I think that may be enough, but I am prepared that let that dry, come back to it. I might need to add on to that just a little bit. And if nothing else, at the end I might have to just take some black pencil and or maybe some pastels or something and just smudge that up, dirty it up a little bit more. But I think it's achieving what I want. I'm really resisting the urge to do any sort of overall color, although I could probably be persuaded to do that. Okay, this angle is a little bit unconventional, but it works. I need to be working on the bottom of this, and this seems to be the easiest way to do it. I am painting in the area where I did all of that puttying and sanding. It's really rough right now. I'm going to let it dry and then come back in and refine it a little more each time. Same with here. I need to reestablish the blue color, and then I can tape that off and paint the gray color, which is that gingham. I can decant some of that into an airbrush and touch it back up. This setup is actually going to help me a lot when it comes to putting the decals down. So I'm glad I happened upon this. This joint here I'm going to leave alone because it is A, it's not visible when it's displayed, and B, it's kind of there in the actual model as well. I think I'm going to close this up just a tiny bit here. Maybe put some of the UV putty in there, because that'll give me a nice smooth, and then I can paint straight it back over top of that. Even better than the Tamiya putty, which takes a while for it to set up. But yeah, this is going to be great, and then I can flip it around and flip it around. I'm going to move it around so that I can do the bottom of the other nacelle. Okay, at this point it's kind of like abstract painting. I'm just going in and retouching up the edges and finding a match for the blue and the gray paint when I'm using not Tamiyas, because they're not really thick enough to paint on. And this is that French blue out of the can that I'm trying to match with army figure painting, or a miniature or figure paints, because the paint has to be thick enough to put on and have it stick. So in fear of stepping over myself, I'm just doing a little bit and then walking away. All of this will have to be neatened up. Getting this yellow cleaned up was important. And look what happens to that joint when you put a little bit of the UV resin over it and cure it real quick. It disappears. So I don't know if I'm going to try to do the rest of that joint or not. I think I'm happy with that as it is. I want to do some touch up on the orange inside the deflector dish area before I glue that dish in, but I'm content to let this dry for a little bit. Okay, so I couldn't leave well enough alone. I did a little bit of red spray, orange spray on the inside and on the out, just a little bit. Don't get mad at me. And then you see the darkness around the edge. I think it looks pretty good. We'll let that dry, and then we'll seal it, and then we will add them to the front of the nacelles. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's Wednesday. It is a completely raw and crappy day outside, so there will be no spraying of clear coats today. I need to take this outside, and I need the outside to be at least dry. I don't care how warm it is, but it needs to be at least dry. So no clear coating today, which gives me another day that I can be spending touching up the paint on the Stardrive section. The minimal amount of decals that go on the Stardrive section I can get done all on Friday if need be. So I still have all of tomorrow for clear coating and starting the decals. But that's my work plan for the week. Oh, greetings and good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, and what a difference a day makes. The sun is shining. It's a bit cold outside, but the sun is shining, which means it's drier, and I can get a clear coat on this beastie today. So what I'm doing is just finishing up, touching up the paint on the Stardrive so that I can get it ready for the clear coat. It's a lot of tedious back and forth and touching up and retouching and doing all of this. The problem I'm having right now is the areas around this joint where we had to join the bottom belly to the pylons, and painting in this trench back in. Now, getting a nice even line there seems to be the issue. I've got the, there's so many different colors of blue and gray here that I'm having an issue, not trouble, but I'm having an issue matching them up, because when they go on, they seem to be the right color, but as they dry, the color shifts like all paints do. And I'm trying to match up as best I can, knowing that this area here is the least visible of the ship when it's on the stand. So not to say that it's not worth doing right, but ultimately you're not going to see it all that clearly unless you have a mirror on your base, which I don't intend on putting here. So let me zoom up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just touching up the areas here around the deflector dish, and I've got to move the lights around so I can see exactly what it is, the areas that I'm painting. There's a area right here as we go into the dish that needs to be brought up. I have repainted the orange, or I've touched up the orange inside the dish area, and I want to get a spritz of the clear coat in there before I apply the dish, just to get that orange, just to get the orange covered. Now I'm noticing from this angle a little spot of the deflector trench in, or the, yeah, I guess that's the trench, the area behind the dish there that I missed when I was painting it from the other angle. So I'm going to touch that up now, because this will be my last chance to get in here and do that, as my options narrow. Once I get the dish put in, we're pretty much done with this area. My goal is still to get this done in such a way that I can get the spray on it today, and I don't know if I'm going to start decaling tonight or give it a full chance to dry overnight before I decal. That's going to matter, because I don't think I'm going to have time tomorrow to decal and then put the flat coat over it, because you want to have those decals settled for a long while before you coat over top of them. I still have plenty of little jobs to do here. I've got to glue down the Bassard fronts. I've got them done, I just don't have them glued down. So that's going to be, while it's in this position, that is the best angle to glue them. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of clear 5-minute epoxy, just the tiniest little bead of it around, here, and then push it down nice and evenly around the ridges there. Let's see. Ooh, I got a little bit of paint on that bulb. Let's get that off of there. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm doing today. Not very sexy, not very showy, but important nonetheless. Was at my monthly model group meeting last night, and I picked up some new brushes, because I have been going through brushes like nobody's business on this ship. And you know, to me, a brush is just a tool. You're going to wear them out. You're going to buy new ones. It's not something that lasts forever. It's a pencil. Pencils wear out. So do brushes. So I'm going to take some dark, excuse me, some dark gray, and just trace it down this path here. And that's going to give me my darker trench. And I think for that we're going to be using, ironically, light gray. It says light gray, but it's actually a medium to dark gray. And it's going to take a steady hand and a little bit of fortitude here. Also very nice that we are letting gravity help by letting the paint drip straight down this trench. You know, one could be forgiven if you used a little bit of tape going down the side there. You know, used. Oh, let me get a tip of Q out here. If you were to take that off, if one were to just clean up that edge. Yeah, but I'm going to do this on both sides and then and continue to go around the ship and pick at some little details here and there, and then we'll get ready for spraying. Alrighty, while the paint that I have touched up is drying, it is time for one of those major steps, and it's one of the steps that will clench the cheeks when you do it, because there's very little coming back from it. Once you've committed to it, you're pretty much there, and that is putting the nacelle caps on. I have opted not to put any fiberfill in there. I don't think it's needed. Once I put that little bit of paint on there, I think that covered up what I needed to do. Now, I am depending on the casting of this, or the printing of this, being square, or this being in properly, because what we need to do is we need to line up the bottom of that cowling with this last, let me get a pointing device here, this last ridge right there. There is a ridge right there. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 exposed coils there, and then we all the way around it has to line up with that. It has to be square this way. It has to be square that way. So I'm using a very slow acting. I'm using a 5-minute epoxy on a very, very thin coat so that I can have plenty of time to position it before it sets. And once I get one of them done, of course it's like painting eyes. It's easy to do the first one. Getting them both to be matching and parallel is the tough thing. So I am going to be counting on the fact that my engines are already parallel, so that I can just make as long as I make it look like it fits on the top of the engine, I don't necessarily have to worry too much about the other engine, because I'm expecting that both of them are fairly parallel to start. Now this camera is distorting them a little bit. It's making them look like they're going out at angles like that. They are not really. They're pretty spot on. So, and the farther away you get with the camera, the more obvious that is that they are pretty parallel. So, I'm going to be going on radio silence here for a bit so that I can be doing all of this important work without thinking about how it looks on camera. And then we will come back to it after the deed is done. Well, one down, one to go. This has gone on just lovely. It's got a nice even border around it. It's sitting on that last ridge ever so nicely. It is square up and down here. It is square up and down here. Looks good. We're going to let that set before we do the other one. I was going to try to do both at the same time. The second one was not fitting as nicely, so I decided to pull it back off, let this one set up, because I think I need to do some grinding around here to help the other cap sit down a little bit nicer. So we're gonna let that set up and then work on the other one. Okay, the second one is down and it's setting up nicely. I've checked that angle. It looks nice and straight that way. Looks nice and square that way. Nothing to do now but let it cure. Good morning, kids. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. It's a D day. It's a double D. Actually, it's a 3D day. It's a triple D day. It is deflector day. It is deflector dish day. Those are the first two Ds. And it's also decal day on the Stardrive. So we're going to be decaling and putting the deflector dish in. And that will essentially wrap the secondary hull until we come to the point where we are addressing the Big Ugly Joint. And the Big Ugly Joint is not a Cheech and Chong movie. The Big Ugly Joint is going to be that joint at the top of the neck. As you can see, I've got the ship up on its keel there, and all the lights are still working. Everything is lovely. The Bassard collectors have sealed in since yesterday. They are looking wonderful. Or the day before yesterday. And I am putting decals down now. These are the decals provided by Keith over at Cosmic Scale Models. He does have them for sale now if you are interested in buying one for your kit. And they will work on any 650 Enterprise D. They don't have to work just on the Helios kit. If you are 3D printing a 650D and you want decals, Keith has got them. They are well worth the coin that he is charging for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, while I've got it in this position, I'm going to put the deflector dish down and let epoxy be curing on that. But I'm also going to do the belly decals. This is about the only best way to get to that, to get to the belly to do the decals. I certainly don't want to set it, because of the weight of this stand, I don't want to set it upside down. There's no creatively good way to do that. So this is the best way to get to the belly and the underside of the nacelle decals. Then I can spin it around and do the top sides. And then we'll be done. So I'm going to take this nice and slow. This is my only job for today, is to get these on and get them done nicely. So let's start by putting, I think we're going to start by putting the belly pennant in right here. So I need to go get some warm water in a bowl, get my normal decaling accoutrements out, and we'll start to put some markings on this ship. And we're off. Now before I start, I should tell you that the stand is going to impede a lot of this. This stand right here, this base, that's going to be impacting a lot of decals that would have gone there. It helps if it was on camera. That stand is going to impact a lot of decals. So we're going to work around it. We're going to start with the Delta shield that goes here and the red stripes that go behind it. And then we're just going to work out from the center. The first decals are down, yay. Now, hopefully, the rest of them are going to be a lot easier, because I'm trying to put this one engaged where it's in, whether it's in the center or not, with this huge honking stand in the way. So I'm kind of zipping back and forth and seeing whether it looks right, left and right, whether it looks good. But I'll tell you that it's probably never ever going to be seen unless you poke your head, lay down on your back and look up underneath it to see that. Same reason why, well, it's one of the reasons why we didn't put the strobe in here, because you'd never see it. Plus, it's got this big block of resin in behind it. But we're off to the races. Now, I did notice a slight registration issue, but I'm not going to fault Keith for that. I know he did the best he could with the printing. It was probably something I did in setting up the file. But the white is just a little bit off, but not enough to trouble me. Okay, first of all, the decaling is going very well. First, the lifeboats are on, belly's on. I've got the parentheses around the phaser strips are on. Lower nacelle is on. I even put this one on. I know that's kind of controversial depending on which version of the Enterprise you're seeing, but I like having that little Enterprise on there. I've got the thrusters, maneuvering thrusters on both front corners. Here's my quandary. There are transporter emitters. One goes here, one goes in the same place on the other side, and one goes up the center. I would like very much to put those on, because now is going to be the easiest time to do that. But I'm also worried about when it comes time to put this joint together, am I going to end up screwing up something? Now this part, the bottom part of the saucer, that joint is very clean. I'm not really worried about that, about any adhesive or anything gooping out. What my concern is in the handling of it. So, or when I go to perhaps, well, I can't put any clamps on it, so I don't have to worry about that. But putting those, and there's some red stripes here that go to kind of show you how the two sections meet up. The bottom saucer joint is very clean. It's the top saucer joint. That's why I won't be putting any of the decals that go in the top area. There are lifeboats that go on that neck joint. I won't be putting any of them there until after that work has been done. But I'm ready to flip this guy around and do the other side, which is essentially just the lifeboats that go on that side, and then some of the nacelle decals. Now, I have not done, there's 4 maneuvering thrusters that go on the back. I want to wait till I have sat this back up in its proper orientation to do those, so that I can see all of them at the same time, if that makes any sense. That way I can kind of gauge the squareness of them. But yeah, let me flip this around and do the other half of the bottom, and then we'll be able to do the entire top. Now the top side really only gets the stripe that goes down the neck, and the NCC and the Enterprise that go on the pylons. Oh, it gets these big ones. That's something else. Yes, it gets those big ones. But let me finish up the bottom. It's a little afternoon now, so this is going to, I think it's going to go pretty quickly after this, but that's all the job I've got ahead of me for today. Okay, so I've got essentially all the decals on the bottom side done, and I'm getting ready to move to the top. I won't be doing anything up in here until after that joint is made, because there's going to be a lot of puttying and repainting. I can tell that already. So what I can do in this pose is I want to do the long red stripe that goes up here, and then I want to do the engine pennants, and then I can, once those are drying, I can set the ship back down on its regular base. I mean, just flatten it back down, and then I can do these guys and the name and number that go, the name and registry that go here. So oh, and there's a couple more sets of red markings that I can do once it's sitting in its proper orientation. See, I've got these guys here already on, but the rest of them I can do once it's laying down. There's also a set of round windows that go here that I've done as decals, and then there are some windows that go in the neck that would be easier to be done once. It'll be easier to gauge it whether it's square and straight once it's sitting on the base. Okay, we're coming up on maybe the last half hour of the day. I've got one major group of decals I want to put on, and that is these maneuvering thrusters that go on all 4 corners of the back of the nacelles. I think I want to put the top 2, put them on both of the tops first, and then kind of square up my eye with that to get to the bottom ones. Keith, I'm not wild about this. I'm sorry. There's a light, and that could be me. That could be the calibration or the registration on your printer. But seeing a white line on either side, on the side of the red there, it was not quite captured as beautifully as I was hoping. So don't know what I'm going to do about that. But everything else is looking marvelous. Wonderfulness is happening. We're going to do these guys now. Well, I made it under the wire. It's just about 4 o'clock, and I have finished all of the decals that I'm going to put on the secondary hull until the saucer is on. Like I said before, all of these guys here, there's some stripes. There are phaser brackets, parentheses that go here. There are some lifeboats, I believe, that go here. Those are not going to go on until that joint has been fixed and puttied and all of that. So until now, we are done. I've got the thrusters done on the back of the nacelles, top and bottom, parentheses, transporter pads, registries, stripe up the spine, big pennants on the nacelles, and lifeboats underneath. And I think we have time for one last light it up before I need to put this video together. So I'm going to put the table. I'm going to put it here over here on the table, and then we're going to move. I'm going to spin it around, and then we'll light it up. Okay, you ready for a startup sequence? Now it's not going to have the neck on it, obviously, but for the first time, we will have the deflector dish in place. So that's why I'm kind of focusing on that. See, we have the window lights come on. Positions and strobes. Facades.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship
Deflector dish, yes.
It's continuing
very nice.
mission to explore strange new worlds.
And now we're waiting for the warp engines.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
There we go, warp engines. And impulse engines lit. Red and green marker lights lit. All of the strobes are strobing. All of the windows are lit. They're electrolight. And it's a glorious and wondrous thing that will be made better, even better, by putting the saucer on. I'll go ahead and shut that down, because I don't want to run the copyright police at me. But let's turn on overheads. There we go. Yep, we've got a lot of work done. Now we've got a lot of work to do, but I am cautiously optimistic about finishing this thing next week. And that's going to finish week 11. What started as a week of abject stupidity and frustration and all of that kind of stuff kind of finished on a high note. I am a little bit of paint touch-up. Let's be honest. There's always going to be paint touch-up on this thing. You're never going to be satisfied with the paint on it. But I am one round of paint touch-up and a flat coat away from finishing the secondary hull. Now, you all know what's going to happen when we put the saucer on. It's going to open up a whole nother Pandora's box of bad times and putty and painting and all of that. But for the time being, I will celebrate what I have got done, which is a lit, painted, decaled Stardrive section. Take my wins as I get them. And I can really see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as finishing this next week. He says, with his fingers crossed, his toes crossed, his eyes crossed, and several crossed thoughts on his mind. I can see finishing this next week if we don't have a lot of problems with that joint. I know there's a lot of decaling to do on this, particularly on the underside of the saucer. Hopefully I found a way that I can make that more of a assembly line and just barrel through it. But putting the top of the saucer down and then fixing the seam and the impulse engines. It all comes back to the impulse engines. The impulse engines, getting those guys satisfied, that's going to finish it up. But I think the first step will be to, I'm going to decal the underside of the saucer, get that flat coated, get it completely finished before we join it to the rest of the neck. And then we can start, chipping away at that joint and everything else. So until next week, big old week 12, this has been week 11. Y'all take care of yourself. Be good. Be smart. Be patient. I know this is that time of year when everything has to happen at the same time. Holidays are coming up, but be patient. Be gentle with each other. And be back next week for what I'm hoping is the thrilling conclusion.